All right, guys, let's break down the Florida Panthers 2024-25 upcoming season. Um, I don't know about you, but I can't remember what they did last season.
Nah,
Um,
32nd, first overall pick in the draft. That's what happens.
yeah, that's about it, right? Nothing major.
Nothing.
No, obviously the reigning Stanley Cup champions, beating the Edmonton Oilers in Game Seven. Absolute drama filled that series, 3-0 up to be 3-all to then to you know come back from what looked like they were going to lose it, lose the unlosable, and then win the cup. So massive props to Florida, and yeah, I mean Jesus, absolute deserved Stanley Cup final the season before, and then winning it this season. That's just gone. So massive props to them. But let's get into the upcoming season, and I'll hand you over to Jaden to take you through the projected lineup.
Cool. So just project a lineup as per cap wages. You got Kachuk, Barkov, Reinhardt, Lewis Torinen, Lundell, Rodriguez, Verhage, Bennett, Samoskovic, Greer, Nosek, Boquist. That's Jesper. There's two of them. Forsling, Ekblad, Mikola, Schmidt, Boquist again. That's Adam. And then Kulikov there for your offense and defense. Goalies here, Bobrovsky and Knight. See if Knight puts in some games this season. Obviously, Bobrovsky there as well. Press box, Gajovic, Belinsky, and Bjornfoot. So a little, a few changes we can note there. I guess I'll let you go through some of the ins and outs there.
Yeah, look, obviously when you win a cup, generally a few players, have to leave either because they're UFAs and you can't re-sign them, or they were picked up at the trade deadline. So they obviously lost Brandon Matora, who left and signed with Seattle. Um, not a deadline pickup. He was with them for quite a while, and
Yeah,
but unfortunately left due to free agency. They lost Vladimir Tarasenko, who was a trade deadline pickup, along with Olivier Ekman-Larsson. Tarasenko went to the Wings, and Larson went to the Leafs. Another notable one, Nick Cousins. They lost a couple other people, a couple other players. No, none really, other than probably Ryan Lomberg, who was another one to probably mention, and Kyle Okposo obviously retired, along with Eric Stoll, who also retired. So they're probably the main ones. I'm not going to get into every single player that left the franchise because there's like 30 of them. But they're the main losses that actually did something with the team last season, and general names that everyone sort of knows. And on top of that, they brought in what I would call the New Jersey Devils reject fourth line. I only say that because AJ Greer, Thomas Nosek, and Jesper Boquist have all played for the New Jersey Devils at one point. And I just thought that was funny seeing that fourth line. Um, they obviously picked up Adam Boquist as well, along with brother Jesper. But outside of that, most of them were depth pieces because, to be honest, they didn't really need any major pickups. But what I did like is the acquisition of Nate Smith. I think it's a 1 year pickup, but I do think it's a really solid pickup, and obviously at only 800,000, you can't really go wrong there. So it's going to be interesting to see how he performs. But I don't mind that pickup, especially for the cost.
mm,
But yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's always difficult to sort of back it up after winning a cup, let alone having two cup runs and then coming into the third season. Obviously, we saw Tampa Bay do it where they had three cup runs in a row, but they won the first two, lost the third. Maybe Florida does it in reverse, loses the first one, wins the next two. Um, but yeah, they haven't. To me, they've lost some crucial players, but nothing that I see breaking this team. I think this team is still very solid. It's still got majority of its core. It's still very good in every aspect. Like, Bobrowski's obviously a great goaltender. If Spencer Knight can get his shit together, he's a very good goaltender as well. Their defense is solid, especially their top four. and their top six is obviously, or even top nine forwards are very serviceable. So I see no reason why these guys aren't going to put their hand up for another cup run.
Yeah, look, they're at the salary cap, or maybe even possibly slightly over. Um, just by like 100 or 200,000. Nothing major, but look, they one of the key pieces that was done in the offseason was signing Sam Reinhart to that 8.6 mil contract for 8 years. Obviously, they got the Florida tax haven, so you can reduce it a bit. But for a player that scores 57 goals, 94 points in a contract year, and he's only signing 8.6 mil, 30 goal scorer 2 years before that. That's probably deal like signing of the year, just straight out, because of how cheap that is. That's not 11
Hmm.
mil, 12 mil that or even more that other players have been asking for. Granted, I understand Florida are a tax haven, but even still, he could have asked for 10 easily. Um,
Yep.
so signing that contract means they get to keep the core there. Obviously, you got some 1 year UFA big ones coming up. Ekblad, you've got Verhage and Sam Bennett. These are big ones, over 20 goal scorers and on cheap-ish contracts in regards to Verhage and Bennett. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next year. But you got them for this year, so they can definitely do it again. My only concern for this lineup, because I don't mind like Adam Boquist on a depth piece. I think he's very serviceable on a third line. My concern is, having like a Samaskovic there on in the lineup, only the 7 games, and obviously the New Jersey Devils rejects that you mentioned. Um, Look, serviceable players. They played around 40 50 games last year, so they're not complete rejects in that sense, but they have had their ups and downs through their career, not just at New Jersey, but the other places they have been at. So
Hmm.
I would just like to see a little bit of more shoring up there in regards to the depth. You know, and they've only got Gadjevich there in the press box. Granted, young kids could come through the system that that we aren't talking about at the moment, but that is just my one concern for the team. Um, I don't really have too much more to say. Like you really just got to have another season from Bobrovsky, just something to get you to playoffs. That's all this team needs because they can.
Yeah.
That once they make playoffs, it doesn't matter. It's they just need performance from Bobrovsky and hopefully Spencer Knight, who plays or the third string or plus goaltenders to get to the line and make that playoffs. They got goal scoring, that's not an issue. They got the physicality, that's not an issue. Even their fourth line's all over 6 foot. I think the shortest person they have in their forward line is 5'11". So they got no small people, and yeah, even their defense is all over 6 foot. So
Yeah.
physical team, strong. It's just my worry that depth. But honestly, they don't have to play many minutes.
No, no. Well, especially when you've got good coverage as well. Like that top six is going to eat a lot.
Hmm.
That third line,
That's top nine,
is
really.
going to be able
Bennett
to.
and Verhey on the third lines. Like it's probably
Well,
your second or
well,
first line on any team.
exactly right. So that they've got depth, and whether or not the Hagee and Bennett actually play on the third, that's to be seen. But
Yeah,
you're looking good when you go. Okay, well, you've got Evan Rodriguez, who's a very good player, for a top nine player. Lindell, I think he's got even more to offer than what he's been offering. And Luosterainen as well is very serviceable. So they have a lot there, that they're not going to have to depend on the fourth line. And, you know, Jesper Boquist, he has shown so much talent times. It's just his consistency. No sex, a serviceable player when healthy, and AJ Greer can can eat up a few minutes when he's only playing a handful of minutes a night. So, it's not that big of a deal. If you could, obviously replace them with some of the players they had last season. Obviously, they'll look to add at the deadline anyway. But all this team really has to do, like you said, is get to the playoffs. And I think that I know the Atlantic is going to be tough again, but it's very hard to see these guys missing out unless there happens to be sort of a hangover of such, where just the players are still
Mm.
injured, suffering from last year's or the last two cup
I was gonna say
runs.
they lost 2
Um,
seasons, 2 long seasons. Yeah.
exactly, so if some of their players start to break down, and Ekblad only played 51 games last season, if you sort of see that sort of stuff again, it might be sort of cause for concern. But honestly, I can't see that happening. I think they'll be up probably in the top three of the Atlantic again. And once they're in the playoffs, we know that basically it doesn't matter where they finish; they can come from anywhere, as we saw a couple of seasons ago. So yeah, look, I'm not too worried about these guys. I think we're going to see another really good season out of a few of their players, and we're probably going to see them back in the playoffs yet again.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Sam Reinhart can, replicate what he did, especially on the
Mm,
power play, just in general. If he can replicate that, I reckon you could see more production from Barkov. I feel like he, during the season anyway, I feel like there's more production there from him.
yeah.
And look, we know how Verhage and Bennett can be deadly. Contract years, being 29, 30, 28, 29, type of ages. Like it's like those are kind of the ages where people go bang, get
Hmm.
paid, and then people regret signing those contracts 4 years from then.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
could I could
100%.
I could see those two players going bang even further, which is crazy to say because they had really phenomenal seasons last season. And yeah, look, they've got a lot of money tied up in the forward line. I'm not gonna besides obviously that fourth line, not much really on their defense. A lot on their goaltending, obviously with the Bob deal, and even Knight with 4.5 mil. So though they've got a good defensive core there, it is a little bit worrying of just how cheap it is, especially with
Yeah.
like Boquist and Kulikov. Granted, serviceable players,
Yeah.
and that's what you need on a third line. But that was just another thing I want to point out. I guess
Yep.
on to my play to watch. Um, I had it at the start and I got it again. I just remembered it is for Hagee, just
Yep.
purely for that contract year. He had 34 goals last season. We know how deadly he is in front of the net, and I could see him hitting 40 just because of how well click this team is. Contract year, still in his prime. I don't see a reason why he can't hit 40 this year. So I'm looking for Verhage to hit 40.
Yeah, look, and 37 goal or 34 goals from a player earning 4.1 million in a contract year. He's trying to give them every reason to give him a big contract for the first time in his career. So, yeah, I 100% can see that. I had two
Ooh,
that I was
cheating.
sort of looking. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sort of. I couldn't really pick between them, but my honorable mention is Nate Schmidt. I'd love to just. I think if he can have a big year, he could do some things, special things. But I'm looking out for Anton Lundell because I think this kid, and I will say kid, he's only 22, has so much more promise and so much more to give than he has in his last two seasons. His first season was absolutely phenomenal, 44.65 games. Hasn't really produced in the regular season as good since. However, his playoff performance was fantastic. He was brilliant last in the playoffs, 17 points, 24 games plus eight. I think he is primed to absolutely take off this season, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets close to. I'm not going to say a point a game player, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see 60 points out of him.
Yeah, it is worrying with that contract. Just I know he played great in the playoffs and he's been doing good, but if 5 mil for your second or so, maybe third line center, but 5 mil for a player that hasn't scored over 20 goals forward is kind of an interesting one. I know it's not all about
Yeah,
goals, but it was just
no,
an interesting thing I noted about him there. So I reckon he could crack that easily this year. Granted,
yeah, I'm
staying
looking.
healthy.
I'm looking for a big season. That's all I'm saying from
Mm.
him. I think
I,
he
I just think five
has
mil
the
for a player
ability.
no over 20 goals is an interesting one for a forward. That's
It
all.
is, but I think it's one of those. I think that is one that's going to age like fine wine. I think this
Yeah.
season you're going to see him push to that next level, hit at least 60 points, and then we're going to be sitting here going, "Holy crap! That $5 million contract could be one of the best contracts in the
Yeah,
league."
and
Down the
it's
track.
not like no move clause or no trade clause or anything like that
No,
either. It's you
you
know,
can bury it. He's
if
still young.
if he ever shut the bed, yeah, you can just bury that
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
quite easy. So honestly, that's a good pick. I do expect him also. It's to break out this season. 20 goals it plus would be my expectant. Granted, it's not all about goals, but I think he can add that production while still playing his assist game and all the other
Hmm.
aspects of his game as well. And
Yep.
look, big solid team. They're built for the playoffs. Obviously, like I said, shortest guy they have 5'11", and that's why they're so physical. Great forecheck. Just got to make the playoffs. That's all it is. So keep healthy up to that point and make
Hmm.
sure Bob gets a little bit of rest and hopefully Knight can pick up some of that slack.
Yeah, 100%. As always, guys, let us know who your player to watch is in the comments, whether it be a big breakout season or whether you might think that they might have a little bit of a regressive season. Maybe a Sam Reinhart, after 57 goals in his new contract, does he drop a little bit? But let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
Yeah, and any players that are in the non-roster or anything like that, any entry-level contract cut players that come through that you expect to replace any of the people in that predicted lineup. But until next time, guys, like the video, comment below, and don't forget to subscribe the channel for more hockey content from us Aussies. But till next time, catch you guys.
Bye, guys.